Hey everyone, welcome back here to the Search Bar. This is our special segment for the Search Bar called the Happy Hour, where we grab a seat at the bar with local wineries, distilleries, and other proprietors of good times to learn about the business and marketing side of some of the most fun enterprises here in Florida. I'm your host, Eric Ritter, SEO Sommelier and CEO of Digital Neighbor, a friendly neighborhood digital marketing SEO company based right here in Tampa. For this happy hour, I'm joined by Ciji Castro, the owner of Domestic Gourmet. She's joining us to talk about her business, her marketing goals, and the spirited story behind her success. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ciji.
Thank you for having me.
Really looking forward to this one. It looks like you brought some goodies here today, maybe something to eat, something to drink. So would love to start there. If you could just tell us about what did you bring here?
So when you talk about happy hour, masitas de puerco, which is fried cubed pork. And then instead of I was kind of like a play on your boneless buffalo, but super Cuban. So they are marinated in my own special marinade that will be available, by the way, this summer. And then I made mojo, which is onions and garlic and sour orange. So that's kind of like my sauce and yeah.
Well, it looks amazing. It smells even better.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to try it. It looks like you paired it with a drink here. What did you bring?
You know, I've been on this culinary crusade for Florida farmers, and recently I've been doing a lot of recipe development for watermelon, and I was inspired to make a watermelon and lime mojito.
That sounds amazing. So this is actually using a Florida watermelon.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow, amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and try this.
Yeah.
And just see what I think. Full disclosure, I love Cuban food. So
do you? Okay. Well,
absolutely.
This is right up your alley. But first, we have to cheers.
Yes, of course.
Salud. It's a good podcast.
Yes. Ooh, that's delicious.
I made watermelon syrup.
Wow, that's so smooth. I got to be careful not to drink the whole thing there at once.
It'll sneak up on you.
I can tell.
It's in there.
it's a sneaker there. Okay, I love it. Cool. Well, fantastic. I'm going to try a bite of this. Get us started here. I loved little forks and little plates here.
There you go.
You came prepared for sure.
I did. I love to host and feed people. So this is a perfect afternoon.
I love it. So for those that are just listening, be sure to check us out on YouTube so that you guys can get a good view of what this actually looks like. I'm trying to stab into it here. I don't have enough muscle. There we go.
Yeah, the forks are a little flimsy.
The forks are a little flimsy.
Sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. At least it's not my muscle, right? So
now I love fresh herbs. So if you wanted to add fresh oregano on top for a little herbaceous kick, just pick off a leaf or two and get it in that bite.
Smells amazing.
I picked it right before I came from my garden.
So this is from your garden?
Yes.
Wow. So tell me more about your garden. What do you grow there?
I grow too many things to name off. I've got 50 different varieties of fruits, vegetables, and herbs. There's actually going to be a special on NBC's WFLA coming out. Well, I guess it'll probably have aired by the time this comes out, but it's May 7th, so next Tuesday.
Okay, and I'm sure it'll be available on YouTube or on demand if people want to check that out.
Yes, and on my own Domestic Gourmet channel on YouTube as well.
Fantastic. And so...
But I try to stay with what's in season. You know, I'm a big fan of Fresh from Florida. They are basically an arm of Florida agriculture. And so they also promote Florida farmers.
Amazing. So I just took a bite here. And you said a Cuban kind of twist on the kind of the buffalo wing kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nothing like it. It's just, a boneless piece of meat with sauce. Yeah. But that is a Cuban marinated pork topped with mojo.
It's great flavors.
Thank you.
They're amazing.
Thank you. That's my own marinade.
I feel like I should be asking questions, but I might just eat all of this here. Asking any questions. It's delicious.
That makes me so happy.
This
That's
is amazing.
Food for my soul.
So if I want to make this at home or if I want to share this with someone, where can I get the recipe for this? DomesticGourmet.com. Got it. Okay.
And this is a great party food because you don't have to serve it with the mojo on top. You could serve it on the side. People can dip into it. I like to serve it on the top because I like to get onions and garlic in my bites. But it's a great finger snack.
I'm glad you just said that because I just picked it up with my hands because I'm tired of the flimsy fork. So I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, that's how we eat it.
Awesome,
that is how we eat it.
That is so good.
Cubans are big on pork, so it's at every party.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you even get into all of this cooking? Because obviously you're amazing at it. I can attest to it myself. It's delicious. The drinks are good. How did you get into all this?
The pandemic gave me time to slow down and kind of, dive into a passion of mine, which is cooking. And I learned how to cook later in life. My mother took very good care of me growing up. So she was also like super OCD with cleanliness. So we weren't allowed to help cook. But I grew up eating delicious food. So when I met my husband, it was finally like I had my own kitchen and it was time to play. And then, life gets in the way. You've got to work and then we had kids and you don't have time for that. Then the pandemic came around and everything stopped and I started, gardening and growing my own food and then making these incredible dishes. And it was my friends and family that were like, you should make a business out of this. And so that's kind of what happened. I pivoted.
So you grew up around it. You saw your mom doing it, right? Or do you ever use any of her recipes or any inspiration from there?
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, there is like a Dijon vinaigrette a la Lourdes, which is my mom. And that is like my favorite salad that she would make for me. Every time I came home from college, that was like, Mom, can you please make this?
Aww.
Yeah, so definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So also curious, it seems like you've kind of developed kind of a domestic woman brand, right? And kind of helping out there. If you can talk about that a little bit more.
Well, I originally, Domestic Gourmet, I felt like was, a homemaker or anyone that truly appreciated like whole fresh food from scratch and wanted to make their own gourmet food from their house. So it was, not a classically trained chef, but turning out, chef inspired dishes.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And so as you came up with these dishes, do you have a favorite recipe if you had to pick one, or is it like picking your children and it's hard to pick a favorite?
It is like picking my children. Today it's this because I've been smelling it all morning. But I love Cuban food. Like that's my comfort food. I love like black beans and rice and pork like this. That's, but then I love Puerto Rican food like pasteles that we do like, around the holidays and arroz con gandule, which is like a yellow rice and pigeon pea. So it just depends on the mood. And if I have an abundance of potatoes, I'm all about the gnocchi. So it just, whenever the mood strikes.
Oh, I love that. And just curious from a business standpoint, first of all, very cool name, right?
Thank you.
The Domestic Gourmet. And from an entrepreneur standpoint, I always like to ask people, because it's scary starting your own business, kind of taking that leap of faith, right? A lot of people just think of the glitz and glam, you're running your own business, right? But it's never that simple. So if you could talk about it a little bit, how you took that leap of faith and how you came up with such a cool name.
The name was actually something that we had come about, as a family. My mom, my husband, and I, we were just like brainstorming and this was, at first I think we thought it was going to be like a garden-inspired kitchen or something. And I don't know, I came up with Domestic Gourmet because it was important for me to have like gourmet in the title because it's the respect of the ingredients and the artistry and the dedication and time it takes to put behind a dish. So I definitely wanted that in there. And then I felt like, it was just a representation of me.
That's awesome. So the brand Domestic Gourmet is you, right?
Yes, but it's not.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it's me. I felt like it was me at the time, and it still is. But it's not just me. It's people like me. It's people who want to learn how to, cook something that they had at a restaurant, but maybe they have little kids and they can't always make it out to that restaurant. So, like, kind of what sets my work apart is all of my recipes include notes on how to incorporate children of all ages in the cooking process.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was just
that's so important too, right? Because at a young age is where you can kind of get them involved and try different foods. And I have kids myself, and they always tell you is for that, to get them interested in food, they need to be part of the process. Picking out the ingredients
Absolutely.
and preparing it. So that's so unique. I've never heard that before.
For me, it was just a matter of making it possible for me to be in the kitchen for hours,
Right. Yeah.
because it was very chaotic.
Yeah.
So by incorporating them, now they have a sensory activity, they'll be good for a little bit.
Right.
And we were able, it was just, it happened by accident, a happy accident.
That's amazing. And you do that for every dish.
Every single dish.
Wow.
Except for the
Okay.
alcoholic beverages.
Okay, yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
that might be. I understand why that one's an exception. That's amazing.
Although for this mojito, they can have them squeeze the limes and pick the mint and whatnot, but I don't incorporate notes on that.
Got it. That's just a tip for the side there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about the bites that you brought today. How would a kid participate in the preparation here?
Geez. So for me, it's about sharpening their fine motor skills, being able to unscrew those spice caps, being able to squeeze the juice. And now once you start squeezing and they're getting their hands into it, now it's a sensory activity,
Right.
So it's a multitude of things that they can be doing that are helping them without them knowing it. Right. So in this exact dish, I don't have my kids handle pork or chicken because of salmonella. They're too little. Yeah. But I would have them measure and pour it into a bag. And then, I would put the pork and then they get to shake the hell out of it.
Right. The fun stuff. Right?
The fun stuff.
Yeah.
The fun stuff.
I think it's awesome how you incorporate the entire family, right? Truly lives up to the name, domestic, right? And it's great food gourmet. It's fantastic. So what are your plans for the future for Domestic Gourmet? Where are you going from here?
From here, I'm currently creating a line of spices and marinades and oils for small boutique grocery stores, hopefully Whole Foods or Publix. Hey, Publix. Hey, Whole Foods, right?
Yeah.
Get
it while you can.
That's right. For the minority community, for the Spanish community, for the Caribbean community, because a lot of the products that we have available to us have a lot of ingredients that aren't good for us. So let me just, if I have a moment, let me tell you a quick backstory. So my grandmother had gotten bladder cancer at like 80 years old.
Oh, gosh.
We were like,
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But we were so confused. We're like, how the hell do you get bladder cancer? Like,
right.
I'd never even heard of it. And we never knew. So a couple months back, maybe like 6 months back, my kids wanted a treat at school and they were able to have it, but it's not something that I buy at my house. Mm-hmm. And it had like red dye number 40. And it's just, for me, it's just the rhetoric. Well, it's not good for you. The kids, they're like, why? And I'm like, well, I don't know. So they're like, well, can you tell me? So like we started Googling it and I saw that it causes bladder cancer.
Oh my goodness.
And I went home and I literally threw everything that, like my typical everyday staple spices, I threw them away. Wow. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start making this from scratch because now knowing what I know, I can't serve it to my kids.
Yeah.
And so that is how creating my own line of spices was born. It's just about, having these ideas, being creative. And then when I don't know what I'm doing, which is a lot of the time, I go back to school. Mm-hmm. So I went to University of North Carolina and I got my acidified foods manufacturing license, which they told me would be super easy. And it was not.
It sounds like it's difficult.
I was way in over my head, kind of questioning everything that I was doing, thinking it was a huge mistake, but I made it through. And so now it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. So when I have an idea, I give myself the grace to make mistakes and figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So it's not directly a correlation there, but it reminds me a little bit of the Siete brand, which makes gluten-free versions of Hispanic or Mexican staples, right? Like tortillas made from almond flour, tortilla chips from almond flour, right? A way to bring gluten-free and potentially like more healthy versions of staples, right? That,
exactly.
Because if you have a gluten intolerance or celiac disease, you want to, and you grew up in the culture, you're out of luck, because the tortillas all include that. but then they came up with the idea of making it with almond flour, and so kind of what you did reminds me a little bit of that. You're like, hey, I want to make the healthy version of this, but still be authentic to the culture, right? And still have the spices available, which I think is fantastic.
And still be able to serve my kids what they are used to eating, which is a lot of Spanish food.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's important too.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm going to have to definitely be placing some orders as soon as, the marinades and spices are available.
I would love that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how you're marketing all of this, right? Let's shift towards that a little bit. Our regular listeners here are used to, we talk a lot about marketing, so you've done a fantastic job. You're almost at 40,000 followers on Instagram, right? Which is a great accomplishment.
Thank you.
So just curious, what are you doing and what types of PR and marketing are you doing for yourself?
So again, I went back to school. I started, I'm sure in marketing, you've heard of Brendan Kane.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. So I started with his books and I read both of them and I listened to them over and over again. And I had to figure it out because, when you are a bootstrapped starting, business, you have to decide where the finances go. And so I'm like, I'm lucky that my husband supports me and he gives me the time that I need to figure it out until I get it right. But that's how I did it.
So you went back to school reading the books and then implemented what you learned on Instagram, or what did you do?
I am mostly on Instagram, but I have a global audience of anywhere from like 4 to 7 million. Wow. I have a large audience following in Portugal and India. Yeah. I surround myself with really intelligent people. I feel like I'm a forever student. I love to learn. And it's done me well because up until this point, and even still, I do everything on my own. Now that's not the pace I want to keep. It's not sustainable, but until, we grow and I can bring on a whole staff, that's where I'm at. So, I have to say it's been the kindness of others. A lot of networking events. Hillsborough County is fantastic with all of the classes that they offer to small businesses, and the networking events that they have, the chambers of commerces that give you the opportunity to meet with people who have already done it. I would go, and you have to be humble and you have to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can I learn from you?
Right.
And then take those opportunities where you're going somewhere for free and make sure that you go with your list of questions. Make sure that you've done your research on every single person that's there and you know who you want to talk to, and you have like a to-do list that would make the time and effort it took to go there worth, the return. And so in that regard, it's very strategic. And then, I get a little break. Someone will, I'll try my pitching and someone will give me a shot on their show. And now I've become a regular, and I, so it's little things like that. But I make sure that I turn around and I pay that forward.
Nice. I like that, and made me smile when you're saying that you're a lifelong student, right? Because I'm very similar to that. Is I just want to continue learning as well, and then doing it yourself, right? That's the best way to learn. Is is doing it and understanding it, and then once you've mastered it, then you can hire someone potentially to do it, and you can then judge them, right, if they're doing a good job or not, because you've done it yourself.
And you know what? In one of there's this women's networking group, I met. Do you know Ryan Halo?
I do not. No.
Okay, so she's the owner of Halo Salons, and she's a multimillionaire at this point, and now she's a speaker, and she is all about lifting up other women. And I saw a talk with her, and she said, from the chair, she started at hair washing. And she has worked every single station, and she had to go back to school too to learn how to do the books and to learn how to do her own accounting. Yeah. But she said that was the most important thing that she ever did because of just what you said. Yeah. You have to know your entire business front and back before you bring on somebody else.
I couldn't agree more. And that was a great example there, and there's so many other industries where I think the most successful leaders actually understand what everybody's doing.
Exactly.
Right? Because myself, I wouldn't expect someone to do something that I haven't done myself or that I don't understand. So I think that's fantastic. So you kind of talked about what you're doing, your global audience, but how do people find you? Are they searching for the recipes? Are they searching for things to do with their kids? I'm just curious if you have an idea of like where they come from.
You know what? I make sure I'm everywhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Like
So
that.
like if I am interested in something, then of course other people have to be interested in it. So if there's like an event I want to go to, I make sure I'm there. I make sure, I'm seen. I make sure I'm heard. I am on TV. I am in print. I am on social media. I am on YouTube.
People can't miss you.
No.
Right. I love that. Yeah. So you cover all the bases, right?
Absolutely. And also I make sure that I keep showing up. You can't just go to like one networking event or one dinner and expect them to remember you. Anyone that, you want to aspire to be or do, you can't expect them to remember you a year later when you go back. No, you have to keep showing up. And, that is my marketing budget. That's where I put my marketing budget right now is, in that.
I love that. Yeah. So not just joining somewhere, but actually being an active participant, right? That people get to know your face,
absolutely,
get to know your name and everything.
And philanthropy, that's important too. You have to make time for that. I really do believe in what you put, you reap what you sow. I am a true gardener, so I make sure that, I give back to the community in ways that are important to me. Yeah. And again, that's free publicity too.
Absolutely. So what kind of charities do you work with?
I battle stage 4 endometriosis, and I have for about 30 years. So I am an ambassador for the Endometriosis Foundation of America out of New York. And I also am a third-party partner of Feeding Tampa Bay.
Nice. And Feeding Tampa Bay is amazing, by the way.
They really are.
I volunteered there several times, right? And just for someone like me who doesn't even know what they're doing, it's like, hey, come in, you can sort food, right? They have it down to a science.
My daughter started sorting food at 5 years old.
Wow.
That's how young they can go.
Wow.
And
I had no idea.
Yes.
Great.
It's important for them, especially my kids who grew up better. Every generation seems to be bettering themselves, right? But they don't know what food insecurity is, and it's important for them to realize it's not so easy for everybody, and it's important to never feel like you're above anybody.
Absolutely, and just for those listening, maybe not watching, I am constantly drinking the mojito there because I can't put it down. It's still delicious. It's really, really tasty there. So if anybody hears me swallowing, that's what that sound is. And again, if you want the recipe, domesticgourmet.com. I'm definitely going to check it out myself after our recording here. And I was curious, where are you going next with the website, right? That's kind of my bread and butter is websites and people finding your website, et cetera. So if you just want to talk a little bit about that so people can find your recipes there.
Sure.
Are you going to do e-commerce on there so people can buy directly on there? Fantastic.
So the recipe or the website was actually the first thing that I started was transcribing my recipes. So be very kind to those very early day YouTube videos of cooking videos. That's hard. That was another thing I had to go back to school for is food photography. That was very hard.
Yeah, that's a science upon its own.
Oh my gosh, it is still a work in progress for sure. But I have recently started pivoting and adding articles because I feel like sometimes what I have to say is important. So especially I was invited recently on a farm tour from the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association in Fresh from Florida. And I was really inspired. I just really was inspired to be a louder voice on the importance of supporting homegrown, locally grown produce. Because as of right now, we are second. Florida, is second in produce production, but also the United States, we have enough to feed our country, but we also export. But what's happening is we're getting foreign markets that are coming in way under, at this point, farmers make about 15 cents on the dollar. Okay. Now, if you've got another country, let's say Mexico, coming in with the same produce and they're taking 3 cents on the dollar, who are we going to pay? Yeah. Okay. Right. The problem with that is it's putting not just Florida, it's putting farmers out of business. And I never want to be in a position where now I'm having to depend on other countries to feed me.
Yeah, especially we have it in our own backyard.
We have it in our own backyard, but it's up to us to nurture that and feed them because as of right now, they're lucky if they turn a modest profit at the end of the year.
So how can I, as a consumer, help out? Do I go in a grocery store and make sure it says it's from Florida, or there's certain places I can go?
So the way it was, explained to me is yes. I mean, we're here, we're in Tampa Bay. We've got access to so much produce. Right. So the first thing to do would be, yes, look for the Florida, fresh from Florida signage and, get that. But if you can't find it from Florida, then get it from the southeastern part of the United States. And if you can't, then just get it from California. But try and keep it USA as much as possible so that we keep our farmers in business.
Absolutely. And it's so important, right? Because, myself, I'm passionate about sustainability and, climate change, and has a much smaller carbon footprint, right? For a truck to come from Plant City, we're in Tampa, from Plant City to Tampa, then, all the produce in the supermarket from Chile. I'm like, how do they even get that up here? Like what a huge carbon footprint that must have.
Absolutely.
So a lot of different factors into that. And plus it's fresher. It tastes better, right?
It does. And it has a longer shelf life. Like, let's talk about the watermelon, just because I've been on a watermelon kick recently. When you pick a watermelon, it has 21 days off the vine. Okay, of freshness. By the time you get it from the grocery store, it's probably like 14 days.
Right. Okay.
By the time you get it from out of the country, you might have a week of a good watermelon.
Wow. Okay.
Which then now you're talking
all
about
the travel time to get here.
Absolutely. So now you're talking about food costs. Well, food costs have gone up, and feeding Tampa Bay. I mean, when I started, we fed about 875,000 people in the 10 counties that make up Tampa Bay. 275,000 of those were children. Now that number has nearly doubled. And a lot of people have these misconceived ideas of who is your hungry neighbor. Well, I'll tell you, your hungry neighbor is a married couple with 2 kids and they both have a job. Mm-hmm. That's who's hungry. Yeah. Because when you're going to the store and you're spending, $18 on eggs, or, $10 for a pound of grapes, and these kids eat nonstop.
Right.
And summer is upon us. Right. So that's another, if I can plug Feeding Tampa Bay, they do the cereal for summer. So, if you go to the grocery store and you see BOGO or there's boxes of cereal, send that, because the summer is the toughest times for hungry children and families.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know a lot of kids get the free program at school, right?
They get breakfast and lunch.
Breakfast and lunch. Mm-hmm. So at least they have 2 meals a day.
Yes, they're losing those 2 meals a day.
That's crazy. Yeah. So we're lucky to have organizations like Feeding Tampa.
And they operate, as large as that organization is, they operate on less than 2% of what they earn.
Wow.
98% of what you donate goes to feeding your hungry neighbor. I don't know very many other organizations that operate so slim. It is, which is why, I push so hard for them, because they really are a group of people who are impassioned to feed their hungry neighbors. I get goosebumps every time I talk about it.
and I don't blame you. I can tell you're passionate about it, right? And I definitely want the viewers and listeners to get involved as well. We'll definitely put the links into show notes and everything so that people can get involved and figure out where they can go, they can volunteer, they can donate, because I agree, it's definitely an organization that deserves everyone's support.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Awesome. So just kind of wrapping up here. For the listeners, viewers here at home, we talked about your website. It's domesticgourmet.com. Is it the same on social media as well, at Domestic Gourmet?
I am Domestic Gourmet on
You just own that everywhere.
I own it.
Nice.
I own it.
Nice. You were the first one there. No underscores, nothing else. I love that. I love when it works out like that, right? So for me, for example, Eric Ritter, I own it on everything besides TikTok because I was too slow. Right. And so I snoozed, I lost out. So it's like Eric_Ritter, Eric Ritter 1 or something. There's another Eric Ritter who doesn't even use it. Right. And it drives me crazy when people just squat on these things, So fantastic. So check out the website, everyone. Follow along on social. And I would love to cheers here at the end here. Thank you so much for being a fantastic guest.
This went quickly.
So cheers, and everyone at home or in your car, on your jog, wherever you are listening, thank you so much for joining here at the Search Bar Podcast's Happy Hour. You can find out more about Domestic Gourmet at domesticgourmet.com, as we said. We'll add the links for them directly in the episode description and show notes. And of course, if you have any SEO or digital marketing questions, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. As the CEO of Digital Neighbor, you can probably tell I love talking about spirits and SEO. We hope we filled your glass with some wisdom here, and you can fill your glass yourself with some delicious recipes as well. So be sure you check out Ciji's website. I'm excited myself to go check it out after this, and look forward to seeing you next time on the Search Bar. Cheers, everyone, and thanks for joining.